Hello everyone and welcome to my studio. My name is Kristen Olson Stone and today I'm going to show you how to draw and paint a small watercolor of some flowers in glass vases. And so the real lesson here isn't so much the flowers, it's about how to draw glass in a loose way with ink and how to paint it. So if you haven't done so already, please take a minute to like this video and subscribe to my channel. And leave me a comment at the end if you have questions. I'd love to hear from you. So I'm going to draw over my pencil lines with, this is a TWSBI TWSBI Diamond 580 fountain pen, and I'm using Diatramentis archival ink. And what I wanted to show you is how to draw loosely with a fountain pen. So I'm just going to kind of draw imperfect wavy lines for the top of the glass and the underside. And I'm not worried about being perfect. And I can look at this reference photo and tell you that these look like hand-blown glasses. But even if they weren't, even if they were factory-made perfect glasses or perfect glass vases, it's still more fun to look at a painting where there are lots of little imperfections. And so anyway, I think it's just really important to have kind of a loose hand with the ink part. So I also drew this in pencil first, and I almost always do that. Once in a while I just draw with ink without, excuse me, first putting the pencil lines in. But I like to use the pencil lines to help me place things, especially if I'm concerned about getting my proportions correct or including a lot of things. It's just handy. And I use an HB lead in a lead holder. So I use a Stadler lead holder with a little sharpener in the back, and that works great. So, and I also, after I finish drawing with ink, I erase with a white plastic eraser. This is the brand I like the best, the Stadler Mars plastic erasers. I've noticed a lot of watercolor artists use those kneaded erasers, and those are actually really terrible for watercolor. They're kind of, they leave a lot of oil on the paper, and even though they seem delicate, they can mar the paper a bit, and they're really designed for drawing on newsprint, which is what you use when you're in art school, and maybe some architectural drawing. There might be some situations where you'd want to use them, but really they're terrible for watercolor. These white plastic erasers are the gentlest and the best, and that's what I recommend people use. And definitely never use the pink pearl kind of style. So I've just loosely also drawn in these watercolor, or these flower petals. Okay, so at the top there is a pink flower. And just notice how I'm just kind of drawing these wiggly lines, and one more flower here, coming out of the side. And the stems and things in the vase, I'll just draw that line, but we're going to paint those. Okay, so this vase, I made the water line on the other one a little bit tall. That's what I get for talking and painting, talking and drawing. Okay, so here's the vase, just kind of making sure I get my proportions right. And instead of drawing the lines like this, you know, like a pinwheel, see how it looks better if they're just a little bit wiggly? Okay, so now I'm gonna come up the sides of this vase. I love the delicacy of this picture. Okay, so I'm going to draw a couple stems in here. One here, and a couple of the lines of the vase. Okay, so now this stem comes up like this and curves around. There's a little pink flower. I think that's a cosmos. And another one of these daisies, or maybe it's a dahlia. Probably it's a dahlia. I'm very good at calling things the wrong name. Okay, here's some little purple flowers. They look like kind of like little delicate stars. Do you see how my line work has a lot of character and motion? That's kind of what I'm going for. And that's what I like. And if you like a more perfect and stiff kind of drawing, then you should do that. But I thought it would be fun to do a video about how to paint glass loosely, because I think people really think of glass as being something very, very difficult to paint, but it's not. You can do it. Might take you a couple of tries, but you can do it, I promise. Okay, so there's my drawing. Oh, and the stem goes into the vase. And I always sign my name before I start to paint. And now I'm going to take my eraser and just erase all the pencil lines. And you can see that this ink dries very, very quickly. And it doesn't smear. So I can just erase all these lines. By the way, today I'm painting this on Fabriano Artistico paper, and this is the hot press. So I really like that paper. And this is just a handy little 5x7 block, easy to put in my purse, and the perfect size for a painting lesson where I can teach a lot in a short amount of time. Okay, so I've got a different mini palette today. These are all Rembrandt colors. This is permanent lemon yellow, cadmium yellow medium, pyrrole orange, permanent red deep, primary magenta, quinacridone purple bluish, cobalt blue ultramarine. This is turquoise, permanent green, and sap green, and Naples yellow reddish, and transparent oxide red. And I'm just going to rinse my lid out. Okay, what I do with these little things when I need to clean them is I just dip the lid in my water and wipe it off with a brush, and I'm good to go. Okay, so, oh, I see one thing. I want to make this vase a little bit wider on this side. And you know, when you're looking at a drawing and you see all of your lines and you think some of them might look off, and you're maybe thinking, like I used to, oh my gosh, I've got to start over. Don't worry about it. It's very often the case that you don't even really notice the lines later because the painting just takes over. Okay, so I'm going to start right away with a pop of color in the center of this dahlia, and I'm using pyrrole orange, and you can see that it is a gorgeous glowing orange color. And then around the edges of that, I'm going to put this lemon yellow. So it looks kind of like a cool yellow to me. And in a couple places, I'm going to let it touch the orange, but in the rest of them, I'm purposefully painting it so that the yellow doesn't touch the orange while it's wet. And that is because I wanted it to bleed in one place, but not everywhere. Now I'm going to pick, right now I've picked up cadmium yellow medium, and I'm just going around the edges of that center of that daisy with that color. And now while it's still wet, I'm also going to add some transparent oxide red with very little water. Just carefully go around the edges. Well, maybe I need a little more water. Just wanted to not have too much water because edge work is so important in watercolor, and I just wanted to kind of control those edges. So I'm just going to do the same thing for this one. So I don't want to put so much dark that it takes away from the orange color, but I wanted to have enough to make it look three-dimensional. Now the outer edges of this daisy are a beautiful purplish pink. So primary magenta is a great color. If you don't have primary magenta, some other options would be quinacridone rose, permanent red violet, any cool pink. And of course, you don't have to make it exactly like the picture. Don't ever put off painting because you think you don't have the right colors. Just go for it, you know, change the colors. If you only have red, you can add a little bit of blue to it and make your own purple. Lots of possibilities. You don't have to have the perfect colors. But I do like to introduce you to colors in my video lessons because I love color. Okay, so now I'm going to put a little bit of this pink edge on this dahlia up here. And for now, that's it. I am going to come back after this dries and add some details to make it look more three-dimensional. But moving right along to the next flowers, I'm going to go back to this pink and this pretty magenta color, and I'm going to paint this beautiful cosmos very loosely. And you see how already the lines are disappearing? So that's what I mean. The paint really just takes over. Now I'm going to pick up some of this violet and I'm going to add some of it to this flower, just a tiny bit. I don't want to darken it too much, just a little bit of violet accents. And now onto the next flower. And that is very pretty. And to that one, I'm going to add some red. Partly because I see it in the photo, but also, you know, I want everything to separate and be a little different. I don't want to have 2 and 2 and have them be too similar. And this purple is a little bit dark, so I'm just going to use the water on my brush to blend it a little bit and even lift some of it. I think just a little too dark. Okay, now I'll put another stroke of the magenta in those bottom petals and at the top. There we go, that's better. So now I'm going to use the the violet color by itself to paint these pretty little star-looking flowers here. And I'm going to put just a light wash of this color on. And I'm going to use the same color for this beautiful flower. And then I'm going to add some of this cobalt blue ultramarine to the little flowers to make them a little bit more of a blue violet. And again, it's because I want them to be different from the color scheme of this flower. Okay, so that's it for the flowers for now. I'm going to move on to the vase, and I'm going to just rinse my lid out. And now I'm going to show you how to paint glass, which is the highlight of this lesson. So I want you to mix a 3-color gray with a blue, a cool pink, and something warm like an earth color. So I'm going to use transparent oxide red. And I want you to mix the 3 colors until you get kind of a nice violet, but not a violet that you'd look at that's too violet. You want it to be a grayed down one. And that's going to be the color that you use to paint the vase. And you're going to leave a lot of white. And then while the violet is still wet, that's when you want to paint stems and other details, like where you can see color through the glass. But you just want to kind of come down through the glass and put this color here and there. Kind of squint down and look at the reference photo. You can see it's lighter on this side, so I'll put less of it there. And then down at the bottom, just putting a few accent marks, and you can see it's already starting to look like glass, which is very cool. And my imperfect lines are looking fun. So now I'm going to take some of my red and magenta, and I want to kind of capture, you can see there's a little bit of a warm rosy color shining through the glass. So I just want to put a little bit of it here and there. You notice how I'm making my strokes pretty carefully. And I'm going to add a little bit of yellow on the right side because you can see it's a little yellower there, kind of catching the sunlight. And there's also a little bit of yellow on the back of the glass. And I want to do all of this while this gray paint is still wet. And I'm going to put some more of the red down there. And now I'm going to add the stems. So I'm mixing magenta and transparent oxide red. So some of the stems are a deep kind of a burgundy color, but they're also kind of reddish. So I want them to look natural. And I don't want the stems to look too defined underwater because wet edges are soft edges. Okay, so now I'm going to put this blue over in the corner here, and I'm going to put some more dark right there and a little bit in the center here. And we've almost got our glass looking really nice. And I'm going to put a little more dark there, and we'll capture this stem. Now I'm going to pick up some of this permanent green, and I'm going to add some yellow to it. I'm going to use cadmium yellow medium, and I just want to make a nice bright pretty green stem. And I'm going to put just a pop of green down here. Okay, so now moving on to the next vase, I'm going to do the same kind of thing with the color I mixed up, add a little more blue to it. And you want to make sure you keep it light too. You don't want to have too much color in the glass. There will be a few places where you put more color, like some darks, but for the most part you want it to be pretty light and light and pretty. So just putting that down around the bottom here, same color all the way around, and there we go, there's our glass. And I am going to make a couple of dark accent marks. Bring in some of the teal this time and put some of that there. So here's some more teal. I kind of like how that teal looks. That's very pretty. Letting the colors mix around on the paper. In fact, I like it so much, I'm going to add some teal to this side. Yeah, that's really pretty. Little discovery. Okay, so back to the greens. This one has more green stems, which is good because it makes it more interesting. You know, you don't want them to all look the same. So letting some of those stems kind of brush over the wet paint, and some are over dry paint. And I just like how that looks. So I'm really watering down this teal, and I'm going to put a little more on the vase here, and also on this one, on that side. If you don't have teal, or it's actually called turquoise, you can use cerulean blue or Prussian blue or phthalo blue. Any of those will work, but you want it to be a greenish blue. That's what teal is. Okay, so I'm going to put a little bit of the base of this flower here, and now I want to mix up the color that I'm going to use to give definition to the daisy flowers, or the dahlias. Okay, so I'm going to use a little bit of cobalt blue ultramarine and a little bit of magenta, and I'm going to use some of this Naples yellow red shade, and also a little bit of this, I don't have enough blue, a little bit of this transparent oxide red. So I mention all these color substitutions because I want you to be able to use the colors that you have. So you're learning about new colors, but you can also use the ones you have. You can see this is a nice natural looking color to give a little bit of definition to some of the petals. And this is mostly dry now. I'm working pretty quickly, but just giving a little definition to these white petals and their edges. Not doing every single one. This is why I call myself an impressionist painter, because I like to give color cues, line cues, and things like that, but not paint everything exactly perfect. So I'm going to do the same thing with this flower up here. Give it a little definition, and this one. And now I'm going to use a little bit of my violet to give a little definition and detail to this magenta flower. And I'm also going to put some pretty little centers into these little kind of starry flowers and the little buds. Now, these glasses, or like glass vases, are reflecting onto a table, but it's quite subtle. So I'm just going to make a very subtle color here, the kind of this violet color, and I'm just going to put it straight down from the center of the vase. So I'm kind of picking up this center there and coming down, and then I'm going to go around the edge of the bottom of it. And now I'm going to rinse my brush off, and I'm going to wet this edge so that it just kind of fades. And I'm going to do the same thing for this one. Even though you can't really see the reflection, I think this is what it would look like. But what this does is it kind of grounds our vases and makes it look like they're not floating in space. And that makes for a prettier, more likable painting. I'm also going to do one last thing, which is I'm going to add a little more yellow to a couple of these petals. Not too much, just a little bit. And I'm going to use some water to break up this pink here, which I find is a little too stark. You know, edges are really, they are the make and break thing of your painting, and you want to make sure that you have the right balance of soft and hard edges, and that your edges really tell the story of your painting. They tell you what's important, what's sharp, what's soft, and things like that. So remember, edges get softer as they go back in space and sharper as they come forward. Everything in this picture is right in front of you, so you don't really need to think about that too much, but it's just a good rule to memorize. And I forgot to do, I wanted to add a little bit of orange to the side of this vase here, and oh my gosh, I forgot also to add on the water line. I just make a little line like this with dots. So I just use a little bit of teal. You can use almost any of the colors you worked with, but maybe some of that gray mixed in with them. And you just kind of want to go right under the line. Same with the back line, just to kind of show where the water line is on inside the vase. And a little bit of green right here. All right, thank you so much. Thanks for watching, and happy painting, everyone.